Going live. Hi, family. It's Bible Magic Maven, JL Song, and this is Bible Magic 8 TV Good Friday message. Good Friday for April 10th, 2020. This is an exciting time. We're going into a time of another, well, we're going to say remembrance of the resurrection. And I'm going to put a spin on it this evening. And I want you all to please follow along because I have some new information to drop. I'm going to put it that way. Drop some new information. I hope I get some folks out here in the live stream. Resurrection. So I'm gonna mute my. I had some other technology going for our stream this evening. The live the live chat. Hopefully we can get someone coming through. But here's the thing. Here's what I want to say. This is going to be new information. I know that I usually say go and research this and research that, and you're able to find it out there. But I want you all to be ready for the dawning of the new era that's occurring. A lot of pioneers when it comes to the spiritual realm. We are out here. You're going to be hearing new information, new downloads. So not quite going to be able to find a lot of the things out there as of yet. As I mentioned in another live chat, books are being written and information is being shared that has come from the ethers, from the Akashic records, and we're going to just jump right in. So again, I'm Bible Magic Maven, also known as the Maven, and this is Bible Magic 8 TV. I want to acknowledge that we are still in our quarantine. Don't know how long it's going to be. I want to acknowledge those who have lost their loved ones or transition has occurred for loved ones. Brief moment of silence. I always want to remember our people that are out there on the front lines as well, that's helping those who are not able to stay in quarantine because they're out in the highways, and the byways and the hedges, and they're helping people, whether it be those who are EMTs or those who are working for the largest retail establishment in the world. I'm not going to name any names right now, but so many people that are allowing TP to be available to people, and all kinds of different toiletries and food, and those people who are in the front line. We thank you for your service. So without further ado, let's get into this particular evening's Good Friday masculine versus feminine resurrection energy. Let's go. So I'm going to start off with just giving like a little preface to this. I'm going to just let you know, no picture of me tonight, guys. I have a picture up there, I should say, so I don't have a video of me. I just want to give you a complete, full presentation because I'm excited about the presentation. And in the beginning of this particular live chat, I want to acknowledge something that is very exciting for me and near and dear. I want to say this in the beginning, and I'm also going to repeat it at the end. But please don't forget, please don't forget tomorrow to watch the Clark Sisters Lifetime movie. And you'll check your local listings, I'm sure, for what times you can have a nice look at that. Just basically what I want you to look at this for is because I've talked a lot about my background, my upbringing. I even included the very first video that I did when I talked about why I left the church, and that's particular, being a Christian witch, when I had that video come out. So that's kind of a picture of me above the full moon next to the Yoni portal spiritual experience that I had, that picture there, and then also the pink Pasco, and also the super moon they're talking about this past Tuesday, April 7th, 2020. We had the super moon. I didn't even mention that the other day, but be that as it may, that picture there is of me when I first kind of came out. I was a little bit afraid to do it. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to tell everybody I'm a Christian witch. What's going to happen? So going through the different phases of, just announcing who I am spiritually But yeah, that's a picture of me there. And I want you to watch the Clark Sisters Lifetime movie because it'll give you an idea of how the Maven, the Bible Magic Maven, grew up in the sanctified church, in that sanctified church experience. So, if you watch it, you'll see a lot of things. I don't know what to expect yet, but I'm going to tell you that is the same background that I have, the Sanctified Church. A lot of the things that I saw within the trailers was what I've experienced. And, it's just really, I feel it's our time. And when I say it's our time, I'm just meaning that that whole sanctified experience, it's deeply rooted in a lot of traditional African spirituality that came over from what we know as the motherland to the rural South in America, and that Southern experience, the Gulf states, GULF states, and hoodoo and voodoo. I mean, I know people don't like to put that together with that traditional spirituality of the motherland. So you'll see a lot of that within the sanctified experience, charismatic Pentecostal church. So please, 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 I know there's a nice little plug in because I'm going to be front and center. So the Clark Sisters Lifetime movie, just for an idea of how the Maven grew up in the sanctified church experience. And I just feel like it's our year to just kind of come out with so many different things that we grew up knowing, but then later on with me, now this is my experience, and I feel that I'm a beacon and also a bridge for a lot of people who are coming over from that Pentecostal experience and then understanding and having an overstanding as well as an understanding of how it ties into the occult, how it ties into esotericism. And I know that those things don't usually go together, but it's not a bad thing. The occult just means hidden. Just remember that. It means hidden, secret knowledge, only for a select few. And the occult, as we've known it, has gotten a bad rap throughout the decades, definitely centuries and thousands of years. And now we're going to be bringing a lot of things that have been hidden and also vilified. We're going to be actually clearing that up for a lot of people. So shining light on where darkness could have been. So that being said, nice little plug in. I'm going to go back to it later on, but I did also put it within the chat. So let's keep moving forward. And I'm going to transition my screen because I have got to share. Really, this is another presentation. I love presentations. I mean, I'm a visual person. I'm a visual learner. I'm a visionary. I'm clairaudient, clairsentient, and also clairvoyant. So I like to get into lots of things to do with visuals. So let me just go ahead and give you what I have put together to explain the experience of the divine masculine and feminine resurrection energies. So we're going to really get heavy off into that because let me tell you, when we look at a lot of the things that we've learned, when I say we, I just mean when it comes to those who are in the, again, sanctified church, Pentecostalism, we learned it one way, and we learned it from people who meant very well, but they did not have the understanding, or the knowledge, I should say, of the things that are spiritual when it comes to the occult and how this symbolism played out, even as early as the 1600s. So I'm going to get into a little bit of information on what I learned when I went over and crossed over behind the veil into the world of occultism, into the world of esotericism, and also the world of, we'll just say of the craft, if we want to call it the craft. And these are the type of symbols that we've learned and how we learned about the goddess as well as the god. And we're going to be working through this whole return of the mother energy, return of the divine feminine. And when I say return, I just mean returning to our knowledge, returning to our reverence. Because the divine feminine has never left. It's just that it hasn't been in the front of what we know as the spiritualism and divine and divinity, gifts of divinity that we're used to referring to. So let's get into the presentation. Thank you so much for all your time and effort. As you send me messages, you chat with me. You also are able to get on different other social media platforms that I'm on. So I just want to thank everyone, all of my subscribers, followers. I just want to just give a shout out right now. No specific names, but you know who you are. Those who have the wonderful topics that we bring up. Oh my gosh, we go down so many different rabbit holes. It's not even funny. And we come up out of the rabbit holes and we go back into them. So it's been a lot of fun with that too. So I just want to give a shout out, and I want to give you gratitude as we go into this work here. So working with divine feminine yoni portal resurrection energy. So this is the title of what we're working on now. And let's just do this. I'm gonna read through it for the most part, but I want you also to get a chance to at your leisure be able to look into it as well. There's some things you're going to be researching, but again, pioneer information, new information, as well as, well, a new spin on information that is thousands of years old. How can I put it other than that? So we're going to compare underworld initiations between the divine masculine, which is the one we know as Jesus or Yeshua, and then the divine feminine, which is Isthar or Esther, or in this case, we're going to say Easter. Okay, so let's get into it. So we have a Holy Week timeline from Palm Sunday to the Resurrection, which is 7 days. And we're going to tie it into the aspect of the initiation thereof. So here we go. Now, we started with Palm Sunday, which was last Sunday. And just kind of giving a recap, you can go back and read it for yourself as far as like what transpired. But Jesus on a jackass coming into the village, if you want to put it that way, the hamlet, you name it. A lot of people are very familiar with this story, so I don't have to get into it too deeply. But Jesus coming in on the jackass, I believe that begins Palm Sunday, so it kind of starts our 7 days. Jesus tears up the temple. And that a lot of people know that. That's, as a matter of fact, that's one of the favorite stories, because I think people like to think to have a point of reference of someone that they believe is perfect having a wild and out moment. That's how I look at it. That is like whatever they're giving the stories. That's always like the first scene. I don't know if you guys have ever noticed that. It's always the first scene that they bring up. It's like, oh, he tore the temple up. That's just wow. That's just something that is a wild and out moment. So people like to refer to that. Then Jesus goes to the Mount of Olives. Then there's Holy Wednesday. There's a cursing of a fig tree during that week. There's also what's called Maundy Thursday, which is a washing of a feet ritual that goes on with, we know the Mary Magdalene character, if you want to say, within the scriptures, where she takes the oil from the alabaster box and she takes her hair and she gives Jesus a nice little foot cleansing. And anointing with the oil, which was extremely erotic. You know that. People don't like to talk about it, but they call her a prostitute because of this. So that we know that ties that into that whole aspect of the procreativity, as well as the eroticism that's involved with a spiritual experience and becoming one with the male and feminine energy. So that's a whole other subject, but just want to put that out there. We have the Last Supper in the upper room as well. And then there is the Good Friday. Now, Good Friday, which is as of today. So this is the trial, the crucifixion, death, and burial aspect. And the other day on my chat, I got into like the cardinal directions. And we talked about the north, south, east, and west. And we talked about the Holy Cross symbolism. So that crossroad. And that's going to come into play another on down the line when I talk more about the crossroad and how that works when it comes to even the, more from the motherland when we talk about voodoo and hoodoo and the ancestral traditional religion or spirituality, so ATR or ATS. And then we get into the Saturday in the tomb or Saturn Day. That gets back into our 7 days of the week and how those are representative of the sun, the moon, the stars. And then resurrection, which is the corona or coronation. That's the Sunday, or the crown. So that's this coming Sunday. So just to give you an aspect, and you'll see to the right, I have, of course, the spiritual experience that I had with the Yoni portal in my ceiling. I mentioned, and I'll just briefly go over it, that it was actually on Tuesday, on April 7th, 2020, when we had the full moon that night. That afternoon, from my skylight, I put my cell phone down, and then my skylight, bounces. There's some sun that comes through, bounces off of my cell phone, and then another point bounce back on my ceiling, and then it shows the yoni portal. And as I mentioned the other day, you look very closely in the middle. The reason why I saw it as a portal, very powerful, is because if you can see in the middle, you see this little black hole there, and that gets back into that whole black hole analogy. You heard a lot about black hole last year, and a lot of talk about that. Of course, that being a code. What is the black hole? The black hole has to do with the yoni portal. A lot of people talked about yoni portal, or that from the perspective of the black hole. We have the Me Too movement. We talk more about the sexual slavery. We're going to get back into that, but I just like to drop the seeds. We're going to be going down a little bit rabbit hole on that, because we're going to talk more about the 65,000, I believe it was last year was the number, of African American women who are gone missing. And then it ties back into thousands of years of sex trafficking. So this is all a way for the great mother, the heavenly mother, to come through, asking for mouthpiece, those who are going to be the foot soldiers, to help to avenge, to bring justice, to bring balance, to bring equilibrium to the aspect of the mother. So I'm not the only one. There are different ones who are a part of this movement, who are a part of this spiritual awakening, this seismic shift. This is going to be something that is going to be very key in moving forward, and then the land being healed. So this full moon time is the perfect timing of the great mother. And as you'll see, I'm going to always show our world card, definitely from the Tarot de Marseille, the TDM, when we have the shape of the actual yoni, and then we have the four corners of the what's known as the world. Now we just have the four symbols, and again, that's at the cardinal directions: the north, south, east, and west. The Holy Cross symbolism, that's the dying on the cross, so that whole symbolism comes into play. Again, very encrypted. We're decoding here, but I'm just dropping some nuggets so that we can tie this all back in together, get us on record talking about this so we can move forward. Let's get into the 7 steps of Ishtar. So, tying in the divine masculine aspect of resurrection and the 7 halls of justice, or the underworld, this is the same experience. So, when we get into the underworld timeline, 7 steps of Ishtar, which ties back to Jesus, or Yeshua in this case, and Ishtar has a similar experience with the death goddess, Erishnagal. So you'll see that there, and I'm going to now go back into the initiation of the 7 days leading up to the resurrection. So we have Palm Sunday, going back to that last Sunday, Jesus on the jackass. So what was that representative of? Jackass. I have a video that I'm going to actually link where I did the Darkside of Jesus. I did that last year, that online video lesson called the Darkside of Jesus. So I actually had a spin on the whole aspect of the goody two shoes with Jesus, and how Jesus was, without sin, without blemish. And I did a spin on that to show that this was a different aspect of how Jesus was really walking, and in the initiation aspect of it. So now we get to bring this out. So on Palm Sunday, when Jesus came out on the jackass, like I said, you'll see the video and the link there below, go ahead and watch it when we talk about the spirit of pride. So what are we talking about? 7, the number of perfection and completion. So we're talking about the aspect of the 7 deadlies here, and then the other side of that. So 7 is the Chaldean numerology for perfection and completion. Is also an initiation between the masculine and the feminine. So we have, again, Jesus or Yeshua. Then we have Ishtar as well in this particular initiation. So the jackass experience is the pride. Okay, Jesus tears up the temple. What are we working with here? Anger and wrath. Jesus goes to Mount of Olives. A little bit of sloth there. Holy Wednesday, there's a cursing of a fig tree that goes on. Now, I don't know if it was on Wednesday, but I'm kind of laying out a timeline here. Curses the fig tree. What we're dealing with was mad because he couldn't get something to eat. So we're dealing with a little bit of greed there, right? You get so mad at a fig tree that it didn't give you food, and you curse it. It doesn't sound like you're walking in any good energy to me. And then there's Monday, Thursday. So this is the aspect of the whole prostitute, Mary Magdalene. Mary Magdalene is being called a prostitute. And then I got into that the other day because she washes the feet of Jesus. So this is more of the lust because it's the erotic experience that he has. Then we get into the Last Supper in the upper room. There's wine being poured, eating of my flesh, that ritual. It's a drunkenness that could be seen there as well, and then the temptation between the devil and the angel. We'll know that the devil brought Jesus to the mountain, showed him this land and all this other kind of stuff. And he just kind of like did his little turned his back, and it's a little bit of envy there. Sounds like a little envy. So those are the 7 deadlies. They call it the 7 deadlies leading up to Good Friday, which we have the trial, the crucifixion, the death, and the burial. So these are the lusts of the flesh that were actually being crucified or put to death so that we can go back on the other side and then have our experience of the temperance. So we'll get to that. But on Saturday, there's the death. Now, this is the same thing that Ishtar went through when she goes through the death. They said when Ishtar was in her death, the 3 days, 3 nights, plants didn't grow, animals or human fertility was ceased during that time. We'll see that similar story with the masculine resurrection energy as well. So the resurrection is the releasing of this particular death experience and then coming to the crowning or the coronation. So both Ishtar and Jesus went through that experience. So let's kind of go over the tarot. I'm going back to the AE Rider Waite. This is aside from the TDM, the Tarot de Marseille, but I'm going to go back to that more popular deck to kind of give you an idea of the initiation cards here. So we have the Divine Masculine and Feminine Resurrection. It begins with Judgment, which starts the initiation. So we'll have the Judgment card. You'll see the scales there. You'll also see the sword. So when we get into how the different worlds come together, we talk more. Let's start with Ishtar or Easter in the underworld. There's 7 steps of the underworld with Erishnagal, who is the goddess of death. Now, that's a similar experience. Now, she helps to judge the heart or the spirit of Ishtar in this case. And this is an elaborate story, as I mentioned. It's mythology. It's been retold, starting with the motherland and then going all over the globe. So there's different elaborate stories of myth or mythology, if we want to put it that way, of how this played out for different people. All we're really talking about, folks, is the 7 deadlies. So we also have called it the 7 halls of justice. You might hear it called the hall of mirrors. The scales are used as well. So the heart, we see it where it's placed on against your heart is placed against a feather, and your heart must come out as light as a feather, or lighter in this case. So let's go back to Jesus or Yeshua in the masculine underworld. We have that Jesus goes before the Sanhedrin. So this is another aspect of an underworld. So the death experience. So what is the Sanhedrin? That's where there's an assembly of it's said that there's 23 or 71 elders. They're appointed to sit on a tribunal, and this is just where they judge. Here we go with that hall of judgment again. And in this particular case, with this mythology, the Christian mythology, it's an ancient land of Israel. And there were 2 classes of Jewish courts called a Sanhedrin. There was the Great Sanhedrin and the Less Sanhedrin. So some of us who know about tarot, we know that we have a greater arcana and a lesser arcana. So a similar thought process. So that's for another day, of course. So let's get into a few of the other initiation cards when it comes to the divine masculine versus feminine resurrection. We have humility through the Hanged Man. And as you can see, there's a Shekinah glory around the head of this particular man. He is hanging upside down. His legs are crossed into a 4. That's always for point of reference. That's our rabbit hole. We're going to go down that another time. Another aspect of it is the ultimate sacrifice to pay. The price to pay is death. Now, this is a spiritual death. A lot of people see it as a physical death, and it can be. But you'll see here on the card, the symbolism is of death. Death of a energy that is no longer serving you. This is the initiation. So the ultimate price to pay, a sacrifice. Then we get into the self-control aspect. So if you want to get past these 7 deadlies, you're going to have to go into self-control. You're going to have to get into temperance. And you'll see that there is the angel here that gives you that guidance. So within this, you have that to overcome. What? the dealing with demons or the lust and wanting to be tethered to these desires. Now, if you see these particular, the male and the female energy there, devil in the middle, you see the pentagram is turned downward, meaning that it's no longer spirit bound upward, it's downward, supposed to be earth, so division of heaven and earth. And you'll see also that the chains on the female and the male are not very tight. It's loose actually. So it's just showing that they're okay to be tethered to those desires with the devil card and that whole aspect of, wanting to be in this moment, wanting to be in the lust of the flesh, and being okay with that. So we're overcoming that. Then we get to the house of God to shock the mind, body, spirit, soul, and the heart. That's the Tower card. Tower has other symbolisms, but you'll see this lightning bolt that comes to it. And what do? You have that great fall. And you'll hear people say, thank God for the fall, because that's when you're being you're being delivered. So here we have it. What I just went through, I'm going to give a recap of it. The underworld timeline. 7 steps of Isthar, as well as Jesus or Yeshua, and the death goddess, Erishkigal. Now, Jesus was said to go to Hades. That's another experience with the Christianity and how they think of it as what the death or the hell experience or Hades. But let's see, we're gonna go through. I'm trying to give you the best words here because I don't want to get too deep into it. But we're just gonna say the male, female. I was gonna say the negative and the positive, but I don't want to put a spin on it like that because I don't want you to think, okay, one is good, one is bad. Because as I mentioned, it's either death or life. That's it. No good, no bad. Because you start getting into gray areas. So let's just keep it as the male and female aspect. So we have pride that goes to the humility. Now, the humility aspect of it is when you're now going to be initiated into the energy that is going to help you to walk from being in the flesh or that beast mode into the spirit realm. Okay, so pride is the beast mode, humility is the spirit realm. Okay, anger and wrath, what do we have? That temple tear up. Oh, that was anger and wrath. What do we have next when we talk about walking in the spirit? Patience. Sloth, laying around, not being diligent. What do we want to be? Diligent. We want to be in the spirit realm. Greed, cursing the fig tree because you couldn't get anything to eat. What do you want to do? At least have gratitude that you were able to come somewhere and even find somewhere about food. Maybe you can find somewhere else to get something. Lust, of course, we had an experience where we read a little bit into it, some other folks that we were working on this particular lesson, and we talked about how the disciples of Jesus were actually a little angry. They were like, well, why would you waste that oil like that on your feet? And we had a really good talk about that. And, they were a little frustrated with Jesus on that and Mary Magdalene. But he was like, oh, we could have taken that. We could have traded that, got some money for it. And you using it on your feet. But anyway, that's deep. So we're talking about a little bit of lust. But what do we have? Chastity. So temperance as well. So drunkenness, the upper room. Now the upper room has a symbolism of being, pouring of wine and drinking and things of that nature. There was a little bit of anger that went on at that table. If you really look at if you read deep into it, you'll see that there are some things that wasn't as holy as we think that were going on at that upper room as well. But what we have on our opposite side, walking in the spirit, is temperance. Envy. Okay, we're going to change that from envy. I don't want their land. I don't want what they have. In essence, a little bit of a little attitude problem. What do we have? Charity, which charity is love. So now we get into Good Friday, wrapping it up. We have the trial, the crucifixion, the death, the burial. This is the crossroads to rebirth and renewal. So once we go through all of these 7 initiations, again, which is the 7 deadlies, walking into from the beast mode to the spirit realm, then we're going to get into being able to graduate. Now that Saturn day, that day of death, when things aren't growing, the plants, animals, and humans, human fertility ceases, that's a time of a reset. Okay, so it's similar to a reset. Now we're going to get more into the coronation, the coronation. We're all going through a reset. We can look at this time that we're on quarantine, as I was mentioning, on lockdown. I know it sounds kind of a little bit doesn't sound too positive, but lockdown, this is like a Saturn day for us, in the 7 days of initiation, or 7 levels of initiation, 7 realms of initiation. So we're in our Saturn day, a death period where we do the reset. and things are a little bit, you can say fertility can go forward, but we're all getting a little stir crazy, but we don't know how long it's going to last either. So we don't, but it's still the symbolism thereof. And then, of course, one day we're going to have that resurrection. We're going to be released for the corona or the coronation to occur. So back to the Yoni portal. I went through that. 7 steps of initiation, comparing the masculine and the feminine. The Yoni portal is all about the divine masculine and feminine principles having equilibrium. There's justice, where we're going to be able to avenge the great mother. We're going to be able to now take that perverted aspect of femininity, of fertility, of the divine feminine aspect, and the male aspect having that androgynous energy as it was in the beginning. Okay, because in the beginning was a word, and we're going to talk more about how that plays in. Now, the Yoni portal, this is I'm going to do somewhat of a decoding, but I'm going to just leave it as a scripture because I want you to go back and look at this. And this is another rabbit hole, if you want to put it that way. Go back and look at this where it says John 3 and 4. Now, you can use whatever version, but I use the King James Version because it has more of a it's deeply rooted into so many different other ancient texts, as I mentioned, like about 18 of them going back thousands of years. So this particular version, it talks about John 3 and 4, where it says, Nicodemus saith unto him, how can a man be born when he is old? He questions. Then it goes on to say, can he enter the second time into the mother's womb and be born? So that's the 2 questions. So what are we referring to here? We're referring back again to the return of the great mother, birth, life, death, and resurrection, the world card. And again, I use the A.E. Rider weight deck because we get into the 4 corners. We get into the aspects of the divine feminine, divine masculine as well. And also, it gives us an idea of the greater accomplishment when we come to a resurrection, the world card. That's the end card. This is where we are going to be able to transition into that experience from birth to life to death to resurrection, and then the corona nation. So nation being a key word here as well. As we're building this new spiritual nation, we have this seismic shift that's going on, and we move into the portal where we're able to now reverence both energies so that we can get the balance that we need and be able to move forward in all that we do and be victorious. So this is the ending of this particular presentation. This is Bible Magick Maven. Bible Magick ATV, also known as the Maven. You guys be safe, be healthy. Thank you so much for being with me as we're continuing our quarantine. And we're going to once again say, I want to make sure we give a shout out that you make sure you watch Lifetime tomorrow on Saturday. Saturday, April 11th. Check your local listings. The Clark Sisters. Watch that because I want you to get an idea of what the Pentecostal sanctified church is, charismatic, and that experience. So that's pretty much the way I grew up. Grew up with Clark Sisters, you name it. This is the time where I really feel that a lot of what we learned and what we knew and the spirit thereof is going to have a different spin. It's going to take a different spin, a new way to look at it. And a lot of us are going to be, when I say us, I'm just meaning those who grew up in that particular experience. Again, I actually am here for all kinds of people, all nations, different backgrounds, religious, it doesn't matter. But I want to say I know I have an experience. So what I always say is I share with you my experiences. I share with you my wisdom from those experiences. And then if you're able to glean, good. If not, well, I thank you for stopping by. But this is my experience, and I want you to share in it so that as I explain things to you, and if we go deeper down the rabbit hole, back up out the rabbit hole, you'll be able to see where I come from, those things that influence me, and then the turn that I'm taking right now, this seismic shift that's going on from a spiritual perspective, how I'm looking at it now, and how we're going to be moving forward with it, and tying all back to what? The motherland, and then how we came over through the, we want to keep it a little light, but when we talk about slavery, when we talk about that aspect, we want to keep it light. And it's, how do you talk about slavery and keep it light? I tell you this way. there was, my understanding, there was a lot of ancestral knowledge that was handed from the generation to generation, that they knew about this great, what they call, undoing. They had these prophets and prophetess. They were giving information on this great undoing, this great coming into the land of the setting sun, which is America, and that we were going to experience this. There was going to be there were going to be people that were dying and birth, and just as we're experiencing now. And it was harsh in many ways, but you know, things that don't kill you make you stronger, and that what does kill you gives you a transition, because we know that we never just leave. The energy just transfers and we keep moving forward. There's this saying that a lot of people saying, some people made a joke out of it, but they said, we don't die, we multiply. I really believe that. Even though you're not going to be on this realm, you're going to be somewhere in a realm. So when we look at that slavery aspect, we're going to be going more into that, dissecting a little bit more, and going back to some original, again, ancestral traditional religion, ancestral traditional spirituality, so the ATR and the ATS, and we're going to be bringing it home. And this era right now in 2020, as they call it, the 2020 vision, we're going to be going back to a lot of things that we learned from our ancestors in a time where we would call the great falling away. And then we're going to be doing a little spin on it, and it's going to be taking a shift like never before. Like I said, we're pioneers, and we're going to be doing a lot of information. We're going to be downloading a lot of information from the ethers, from the Akashic records, and we're going to be sharing it. And just we're going to do. It's going to be a whole shift. So as you watch tomorrow night, on Saturday night, the Clark sisters, and that Lifetime movie, again, it's Lifetime. I'm gonna plug it because I know, hey, it doesn't matter. I want you guys just to get the message, get the knowledge, because there's gonna be this shift that like never before, and you're gonna have some roots and information on it. And now might not be the best historical perspective. Now I'm gonna put this little caveat out there. I notice sometimes when some people tell stories of those who are on the other side, if you want to put it that way, of the persuasion. I'm trying to keep it light. It's not always to the letter history, but it gives you some foundation. So at least we're going to go into it. You watch it, then we're going to do a recap of it. I'm going to do a recap, and I'm going to bring some things out and say, well, this might not have been so much so, and so on and so forth, and then we can go from there. So, and give a little review on it. I have never did a movie review on my channel, so I'm excited about doing it. I'm going to do a movie review once I watch it. All right, so all the best to you all, mystical smooches. This is Bible Magic Maven, the Maven. You're watching Bible Magic 8 TV, and we're going to sign on off. I'm going to see if anyone came through the chat first before I go. We didn't get anyone, but that's okay. That's okay. It is Friday evening, but all is well. All right, all the best to you again. Mystical smooches. Take care.